The day I overheard my daughter-in-law, Teresa, planning to lock me away, a cold dread settled into my bones, deeper than the October chill in Pinewood, Michigan. It was 6:43 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, September 23, 2025, and I was 74, sitting quietly in my armchair with a cup of chamomile tea, my hearing aids picking up every word through the thin walls. My son, Robert, had brought Teresa and their family for a visit, but their voices carried from the kitchen. "She's too much to handle," Teresa hissed. "That old house, her arthritis, we need her in a home. I've found one in Grand Rapids. Sign the papers, and we control her assets." Robert mumbled, "Mom won't like it," but Teresa snapped, "She doesn't get a say. She's slipping." If you're watching Granny Untold Stories, please subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me your morning routine and where you're from. We might feature you next time. Now, let me take you through the betrayal and the brilliance that followed. I'd raised Robert alone after his father, James, died in a logging accident when Robert was 9. I'd waitress nights, saved every tip, and loaned him $40,000 to start his plumbing business. My granddaughter, Mia, 16, was my pride, her art filling my walls. But Teresa's words, "She doesn't get a say," ignited a fire. I gripped my cane, my heart pounding. Robert's silence was a knife. I'd expected loyalty, not this. That afternoon, they left, leaving a brochure for Harmony Hills Senior Home with a contract. I stared at it, whispering, "They think I'm frail. But I've got one last stand." The next day, I sat at my oak table, the wood worn from decades of family dinners, and opened a hidden drawer in my desk. Inside were my secrets, deeds to my 20-acre property, now worth $1.2 million due to a nearby resort boom, and a retirement account from 40 years of teaching, totaling $900,000. After James's death, I'd turned grief into grit, investing in local land and stocks, quietly building a nest egg. Robert thought I lived on Social Security, a quaint widow in a creaky house. He didn't know I'd bailed him out of debt thrice, including $25,000 last year. But Teresa's scheme, control her assets, shifted my perspective. I called my attorney, Susan Carver, a no-nonsense woman who'd handled James's estate. "Susan," I said, voice firm, "I need to rewrite my will. Robert and Teresa get nothing." Susan paused. "Margaret, that's your son. Are you certain?" I glanced at a photo of Robert at his wedding, his arm around me, smiling. "He chose her over me," I said. "I'm giving it to the Pinewood Arts Academy. They nurtured Mia's talent. They deserve it." Susan arrived that evening, her briefcase heavy. We sat by the fireplace, the crackle of logs a comfort. I handed her the drawer's contents. $2.1 million, I said. All to the academy, with a $200,000 trust for Mia, untouchable by her parents. Susan nodded. "And Robert?" "A letter," I replied. "He needs to know why." I wrote it that night, the pen scratching. "Robert, I gave you my life, my labor, my love. I thought you'd honor that. But when Teresa planned to lock me away and you agreed, you lost me. Mia gets a trust, guide her right. The rest goes to those who lifted us. You get this truth, betrayal has a price. Margaret." I sealed it, my signature bold, and felt a resolve steal me. But I needed proof. I called my neighbor, Hank, a retired investigator. "Hank, dig into Robert and Teresa's finances. I need the truth." Hank agreed. "Give me a week, Maggie." I sipped my tea, watching the leaves fall. They'd misjudged me. A week later, Hank handed me a folder, his face grim. Robert's plumbing business was faltering, $180,000 in debt from a failed contract. Teresa had spent $70,000 on a new kitchen and vacations, maxing their credit. They'd taken a loan against my property, forging my signature, and Teresa had contacted Harmony Hills about a guardianship to seize my assets. The senior home wasn't care, it was a takeover. I decided to test them. I called Robert, voice frail. "Son, my health's worsening. I might need help with the property. Can you come?" His eagerness was immediate. "Of course, Mom. Teresa and I will be there tomorrow with Mia." I smiled. "Bring the family. I've got papers." They arrived, Robert in work boots, Teresa in heels, Mia looking uneasy. I served pie, my hands trembling on purpose. "I've been thinking," I said, "maybe Teresa's right about the home. I've drafted a power of attorney for you." Robert's eyes lit up, and Teresa leaned in, her smile predatory. "That's wise, Margaret," she purred. "We'll take good care of you." Mia frowned but stayed silent. I slid an envelope across the table, a fake power of attorney granting access to a dummy $50,000 account. Robert signed eagerly, Teresa adding her flourish. "Perfect," she said. "We'll move you next week." I nodded. "Let's celebrate at the Academy fundraiser." "I'll come quietly." That night, at the fundraiser, I arrived uninvited. Teresa handed me a glass of wine, her eyes glinting. "For you, Margaret," she said, her hand slipping a drop from a vial, sedative, to hasten my move. I smiled, swapped my glass with hers when she turned, and watched her sway, blaming the crowd. I left, knowing Detective Laura Mills, an Academy board member, was monitoring. The next week, Robert and Teresa returned with movers, smug. "Mom," Robert said, "we've got Harmony Hills arranged. Sign the power of attorney, and we'll handle the rest." Teresa added, "It's for your safety, Margaret." I poured coffee, my hands steady. "Before I sign, I have a surprise." I slid another envelope across the table, last will and testament. Robert frowned. "What's this?" "Open it," I said. He did, his face draining as he read. The $2.1 million, property, savings, stocks, went to the Pinewood Arts Academy. Mia's $200,000 trust was secure. The letter inside echoed my kitchen draft, ending with, "Betrayal has a price." Teresa's voice rose. "This is a joke. You can't do this." I met her gaze. "I already did. And the police are looking into that guardianship fraud." Before they could react, the doorbell rang. Detective Mills stood with officers. "Teresa Dawson, you're under investigation for fraud and endangerment," she said, holding up the vial from the fundraiser. "We found sedative in the wine you served Margaret. Your prints are on it." Teresa paled. "This is absurd." I didn't. I stepped forward. "I saw you, Teresa. You tried to drug me to force the power of attorney." I switched the glasses. "You felt it." Robert turned to her, horrified. "You did what?" Teresa stammered, "It was just to help, Robert." Mills cuffed her. "Explain it downtown." As Teresa was led away, Robert sank into a chair. "Mom, I didn't know. We're desperate, the business, the debts." The arrest made local news, Granny's escape trending on X, Teresa faced charges of fraud and attempted endangerment, her reputation shattered. Robert wasn't charged but lost contracts, his business teetering. Mia called, voice breaking. "Grandma, what's happening?" "Mom's gone." I softened. Come stay with me, sweetheart. We'll sort it out. I attended the Academy fundraiser the next week, invited now, my sapphire earrings gleaming. The crowd cheered as I donated the property deed, the $2.1 million funding a new art wing. A reporter approached. Mrs. Dawson, how do you feel? I smiled. I feel alive. The story spread, #GrannyOutsmarted trended, with clips of Teresa's arrest and my speech. Robert visited, eyes red. Mom, I'm sorry. I was in over my head. Can we fix this? I looked at him, my son, lost. You fix yourself, Robert. Mia needs you. He nodded, leaving quietly. The Academy named the wing Margaret's Muse, and donations poured in. 2 months later, Teresa's trial began. Evidence mounted, forged signatures, sedative purchases, guardianship inquiries. I testified, my voice steady. She wanted my home, my money. I outsmarted her to protect myself. The jury convicted her of fraud, sentencing her to 1 year probation and restitution. Robert testified, tearful, accepting partial blame. His business stabilized, but trust was gone. Mia moved in, her art flourishing. Grandma, she said, can we paint the porch? I hugged her, my heart mending. The Academy wing opened, a quiet celebration with young artists. A plaque read, in honor of Margaret Dawson, keeper of creativity. I felt a legacy grow. 6 months later, I stayed in Pinewood, renovating my home with Mia's help, living off $150,000 I'd kept. The property sale funded the wing, and Mia's trust secured her future. Robert visited weekly, humbled, rebuilding for Mia. Teresa, on probation, faded from their lives. My story inspired a local movement, #GrannyResilience. I spoke at schools, my cane a symbol, raising funds for the Academy. A documentary, Outsmarting the Lock, aired, earning acclaim. I didn't seek fame, I sought justice. The town hailed me as Pinewood's Granny, a title I wore with pride. A year later, I sat on my porch, 75, the autumn leaves falling. Mia graduated high school, her art showcased at the Academy. Robert called, voice soft. Mom, thank you for Mia. I nodded. For her, always. The documentary won an award, and a statue was proposed, me with a cane, smiling. I laughed. Just a granny who fought back, I said. But Pinewood saw an icon. They left me to lock me away, but I outsmarted them. Thanks for Granny Untold Stories. Subscribe, comment, what would you do? Keep your spirit strong.